As you know, I announced to Parliament today the result of the work that we've been doing to balance the budget and make the equipment programme sustainable. And I'm here now to say thank you. First, for your patience and forbearance. I know that uncertainty is debilitating and that this particular part of the process has been somewhat drawn out and the results the subject of much media speculation. So I hope that the announcement that I have made today goes some way to removing the uncertainty. Second, thank you for all the hard work that has gone into balancing the PR12 budget and shaping the equipment programme, not just here in head office, but down the M4 in DENS and in commands up and down the country. And not just over the last few months, but right the way back to when Liam Fox started this process in 2010. There are a lot of people who've been burning a lot of midnight oil to get this done, so thank you for all of that effort. Of course, this has all been happening whilst our main priority continues to be operations, particularly in Afghanistan. And the news from Afghanistan over the weekend is once again a reminder of the dangerous and sometimes deadly conditions faced there. I know that it is the knowledge that what we do here in the MOD is supporting our armed forces there on the front line that primarily motivates many of you. Of course, the armed forces and the MOD do not exist to balance the budget. We exist to defend the country and keep our citizens safe. We should never lose sight of that key fact. But we can only achieve our aims in the long term if defence capability is sustainable and based on balanced budgets. We've all seen what happens when that discipline is forgotten. As a result of today's announcement, we now have a defence equipment programme that is based on firm foundations. We can plan for the future with a much greater degree of certainty than the previous precarious financial position permitted. It is the beginning of a new chapter. It is about changing the way we do things, creating a new culture across defence where we are hard-headed about what we can afford and laser-focused about delivering it. Creating an affordable, fully funded core programme that delivers the equipment for Future Force 2020 and supports current commitments. Building in proper contingency for the future so that the whole programme doesn't get blown off course because a project overruns its budget. And leaving some uncommitted headroom so that we can fund additional projects later in the 10-year period as it is prudent to do so. Being honest with ourselves and with industry about what we can afford, avoiding the pitfalls of the past that led to the constant chopping of capability and platform numbers, and ending the culture of overcommitment and constant slipping of in-service dates to make the cash flow balance, a practice which has driven enormous cost into our projects and has done tremendous damage to the department and to the integrity of the equipment programme. The culture and the practice have to change. And with the announcement of a balanced budget, we have turned a corner. I am confident that going forward, the dynamic will be about looking for opportunities to improve our efficiency and productivity within delegated budgets and to recycle the savings to additional equipment priorities over and above the core programme. Let's put the constant drip feed of bad news stories behind us, and let's make the news from the MOD in the future a constant feed of positive announcements as we use the headroom in the equipment plan, release unused contingency and the departmental unallocated provision, and harvest the benefits of further efficiency gains to procure additional equipment. This event this afternoon is an opportunity for you to question the top team, myself, CDS, PUS, about what has been announced and what it means for the department, for you personally. So before opening it out for questions and comments, I'm going to ask first PUS and then CDS to say a few words.
You all, just a few words really that reinforces what the Secretary of State just said about the work that's gone on over the last year or so. First of all, of course, in Afghanistan, which is our main effort, that work means that we're on track to leave Helmand in about 2 and a bit years' time, and I have complete confidence that our strategy is deliverable. And I just want to say a big thank you for all that work. With all the other stuff going on, I'm conscious that that main effort rule has been applied, and I'm very grateful, because as the Secretary of State just said, there are people out there right now risking their lives, confident that we understand what they need from us. So a big thank you for the fact I'm able to say to them when I visit them that we do get it and we are working very hard for them. Secondly, for all those other operations that are so often overlooked because of our main effort, but they include the deterrent, the piracy work both off the Horn of Africa and our other maritime deployments in the Caribbean, and the United Nations and other missions and training teams we support worldwide. They've been overshadowed somewhat recently, particularly by the Olympics, about to gather pace, a big part of the Chiefs of Staff meeting I've just had, and of course the potential fuel strike, which has given the MOD and Defence generally a big thumbs up from Number 10 for the response you all put into that. But those things demand no less commitment for that, and I'm very grateful. Thirdly, but certainly not the least important, is the work that's gone into reorganising the armed forces. We are rethinking how we conduct operations, and I've commissioned work colloquially called the How We Fight work to help us rethink how we use the resources we have and that are relevant to 21st century challenges like cyber and enhanced use of ISTAR. That's because we all remember that although transformation is an important process, the result will be and must be about delivering military capability. That's the reason we're all here. We're the UK's strategic military headquarters in this building, as well as the Department of State. And as the Secretary of State said in Parliament today, success on military operations is our overriding priority. And as I said at the press conference earlier, we take it, as you all know, very seriously indeed. But as the world becomes less stable in the Middle East, Far East and even South America, maintaining a contingent capability, as the Secretary of State just said, is vital, and we're rebuilding that as quickly as we can. The current manning and procurement plans will ensure that, with close allies, an increasingly important part of our approach, most importantly NATO, but also countries including Qatar, for example, whose Chief of Defence I'm hosting today, that we're manned and equipped for the task. But to continue doing this, we must remain balanced and buy what we can afford. Your success in getting us to that position has been a real team effort across military and civilian staff, and you all have my thanks. After some tough decisions, we are now in a position to build the armed forces of the future. And looking into the 2020s, we are well placed to achieve the battle-winning armed forces, working with allies, I again emphasise, that we need for the nation's defence. Smaller, yes, but still with global reach, able to operate across the spectrum, and something you can all be very proud of helping deliver. The new Queen Elizabeth class carrier, the new Type 45s, the Scout armoured fighting vehicle, Apache and Puma helicopters, A400M, and the new strategic air-to-air refueler Voyager are all examples of where we're now investing for the future. And I say it's all about some very clever and committed people who are developing a more agile approach to the approach that we take to procurement and the development of capability. And I emphasise people for a reason. The reason is, most importantly, we have the best people. They're trained, motivated and supported by a fantastic civilian team to deliver success on operations. And I'm very proud of you all, and the families, I emphasise, without whose support we could not cope, any of us, could we? This balanced budget, to summarise, will give us much greater stability. Through it we've received a commitment of investment over the next decade, decade, giving us all much needed clarity on which to base our collective plans, but also for you as individuals to base your personal individual plans, which are just as important. And your career expectations, all those sort of things have been put slightly on hold because we didn't have that clarity. I hope we can now put behind us. Achieving this won't be easy. I know, as the Secretary of State has made the same point, we're asking a lot of you, of our people. But this is actually our generation's opportunity to help shape UK defence constructively over the next 15 to 20 years and allow us to meet the task laid on us confidently. So do please seize it actively. We've now got a new start point, and I'm absolutely convinced that we can make this work, and I have every confidence that you'll continue to contribute to that work in the way you've done so magnificently under difficult conditions over the last year. Thank you very much.
The Secretary of State and the CDS have said something about balancing the budget and what that means for our armed forces. I want to say something about another aspect of today's announcement, which is what it all means for transforming defence. But before I do that, I do want to say something about the Planning Round 12 work, because I think that Planning Round 12 has been the result of an enormous amount of hard work, of people working together. That's the critical thing about it. Led from the top by the Secretary of State, the top team and those who worked for us have worked together on this problem. We've tackled efficiency problems together, and we've tackled prioritising together. That's something you've been asking us to do, and I think the announcement we're making today is evidence of that. Having got the budget in balance, I think you're hearing everybody saying at the moment, what we need to do is to take this opportunity to start looking forwards and not looking backwards. All the time that our budget wasn't in balance, it was understandable that people wanted to look back. Now that it is, we need to be looking forward and looking at what we're actually going to do with the resources that we've got. And what we're going to do with those resources is going to be set out in command plans. Every TLB is going to have a command plan that sets out what it's going to be doing to deliver the strategy for defence with the resources that are available to it. That includes the head office and corporate services. Those command plans are about the individual TLBs setting out how they are going to deliver the strategy for defence. This is effectively the delegated model in action. A smaller, more strategic head office sets out the strategy, and then the frontline commands and the Joint Forces Command are responsible for delivery, supported by our enabling groups in DE&S, Defence Infrastructure, Defence Business Services, and so on. You may have heard people talk about the new delegated model in terms of greater freedoms, and that's right. We want greater freedom for frontline commands, indeed for all the TLBs. But with the freedoms goes also greater responsibility. That's what the model is about. We've been working on the new processes for accountability, but it's not just about processes, it's also about behaviour, and I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. I also want to say something about fragmentation. Lots of people have said, doesn't the delegated model imply that individual frontline commands, the three services, will go off and do their own thing, and we won't any longer have a joint Ministry of Defence? I don't buy that. Jointness is absolutely critical to the success of the UK defence effort, and indeed we think it's so important that we've been strengthening it recently with the creation of the Joint Forces Command. And for me, the delegated model is not about people going off and doing their own thing, it's about each of us being clear what our responsibilities are. In the delegated model, there is individual accountability and responsibility. Not all of us are responsible for setting strategy, and not all of us are responsible for trying to do delivery, but all of us are collectively responsible together for delivering the strategy for defence. That's what the delegated model is about. A key part of the delegated model is something we are calling the holding to account process. What that means is that several times a year I shall be personally meeting the individual TLB holders and holding them to account. What does that mean? It means that we'll be having a conversation about what that TLB was due to deliver with the resources that have been given to the TLB, what the problems are, whether we're on track, and what we're going to do when we're not on track, and how we're going to hold people to account for getting back on track. And that's not just about someone in the centre holding people in the front line to account, because often the problems will be in our complex organisation, problems that arise in the centre or in one of our enabling functions. Holding to account is about making sure we unpick those blockages so that we work together to deliver results. I've talked a bit about changes in the top team in the delegated model, but the changes we need are not just in the top team. The behaviours we need are behaviours that apply to each and every one of us. Those command plans that I've talked about have got to get cascaded all the way down into individual job plans for each and every one of us, so that we are each personally responsible for knowing what we are doing to contribute to the strategy for defence, for knowing in our own personal area of work what money we're spending and what results we're achieving for that money. That's how we're going to keep the budget that we've worked so hard to get into balance, keeping it in balance. We all share that responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of the finance team who've worked really hard on this, it's the responsibility of all of us. Some of you may have seen a programme which is called Be, Think, Do. If you haven't seen it yet, you will be seeing more about it in the near future. Be, Think, Do is our programme to help everybody in the organisation think about what they need to do to deliver the strategy for defence. It's about being a leader, thinking defence, thinking corporately for defence, not just thinking about our own narrow area, and it's about doing it better, doing things more effectively and at lower cost. The Be, Think, Do programme has got some advice for everybody about how to do that. It's a programme in which we will be engaging with you on helping you in order to be a leader, to think defence and to do it better. The announcements that have been made today are the result of some really difficult work, and it's taken us, as the Secretary of State said, longer than perhaps we would have liked to get to where we are now. Of course, that's only the beginning. Resources remain very tight across the whole of the public service. That means that resources are at a premium, and we have to work hard to make sure we're using them effectively. And that's not easy at a time when we're downsizing both military and civilian personnel. But we're trying to reshape the department so that with that smaller set of resources and that smaller set of people, we can still deliver the effect that the CDS was talking about. I hope that today is about stopping looking backwards and starting looking forwards, and that you will want to be a part of that effort. Thanks very much.